Jeffrey Dahmer if he was normal and not straight.
What up? You got your tattoo? Nice. How was it? How was that experience?
Anybody had to feel too bad about it, but amazing.
What were you getting again? I know you told me. Was it Halo related?
That was amazing.
Anybody had to feel too bad about it, but amazing.
That was amazing. That was a very gutsy thing. It makes sense that happened in your 20s. I'm not sure now. I'm like 35 now. I'm like, oh, no, fine. I would second because, like, you know what? I have a good thing going here. I'm gonna stick with the soap opera.
I had nothing to lose, really. I mean, I could have taken the.
I have to go in here. You know what? I have a good thing going here. Because, like, you know what? I have a good thing going here.
Well, I had nothing to lose. I had nothing to lose, really. I mean, I could have taken the job on the soap opera. Called Studio. Called Studio, yeah. I don't know.
Were you aware?
I don't know.
I would second because, like, you know.
Feel too bad about it, but amazing.
That was amazing. That was a very gutsy thing. It makes sense that happened in your 20s. I'm not sure now. I'm like 35 now. I'm like, oh, no, fine. I would second because, like, you know what? I have a good thing going here.
Well, I had nothing to lose. I had nothing to lose, really. I mean, I could have taken the job on the soap opera, but I really more wanted to do the thing on Doctor Who. But as I say, it turned out partly, I think. I mean, I know that it was that John, the producer of Doctor Who, and Julia Smith, the producer of Angels and Then EastEnders, had this sort of long-running feud. They didn't get on very well together. So I don't know if John felt that, oh, God, I could steal Mark off the studio. Yeah, I don't know.
Were you aware of the rivalship at the time?
No, no, no. It's something I heard. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Were you
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
were you aware of the rivalship at the time?
No, no, no. It's something I heard about.
Aware of the rivalship at the time?
Oh, no, no. It's something I heard about much later.
Oh,
Cool, I could steal Mark off studio, yeah. I don't know.
were you aware of the rivalship at the time?
No, no, no. It's something I heard about much later.
Oh, okay, so you
About much later.
Wait, so he can leave the state of New York. This is huge. Jefferson's mom is a cougar and she's a babe and she lives in Syracuse. And I'm like, that whole conversation, I was like, I gotta get her on the phone. I'm like, I'm about to call her the second we're done this and make sure she never talks to this man. I'm like, no, that man is not going near her. She's single and she is
Steal Mark off studio, yeah. I don't know.
I'm so upset right now. I have to tell you.
What's up, Culturescape? It's going pretty good. This is a good interview. You're having good chemistry with this guy. And he's done a lot of cool things.
What are these? What has he done?
I put in an overlay of him. Check out this overlay of him I popped into the...
That's my problem.
I found a good one of him.
I'm closed up.
Check this out.
Yeah, for viewers who aren't familiar, Mark Strickson played the character of Turlo, one of the few male companions in Doctor Who, and he on the show. You were there for about 2 years, but
Pretty cool one. I don't think it's officially licensed. It's probably fan made or something, but
That's it. Absolutely key.
it works.
ADHD and bipolar. That's a wrap.
That is him, right?
And sex addiction.
Pretty sure I looked up the right one. Yeah, but already I've been cracking up as some of his stories. How far along am I in this? This is 20 minutes into the conversation. I've already cracked up a few times. It's kind of funny. It fits the character well.
rivalship at the time.
No, no, no. It's something I heard about much later.
Oh, okay.
Heard about much later.
Get rid of this. Get rid of this.
Rivalship at the time.
No, no, no. It's something I heard about much later.
Oh, okay, so you kind of lucked in there.
I kind of
You
love
didn't
it.
even know.
But interesting.
You kind of lucked in there.
I thought the interview went really well, actually. I'm pretty jazzed about the whole thing. Nice. Yeah, this is gonna be a good one. I thought that you got along really well. I don't think I told you this, but after doing the Sandy interview, I thought you got along really well with him, too. Yeah, I think it was just something you said that you weren't, I don't know, something you said that you weren't sure, because he was like a Latter-day Saint that you've had, and you haven't like actually interviewed a lot of Latter-day Saints, but I thought you guys got along really well in that interview. That it really flowed. I don't think I mentioned that to you yet. I meant to, but I did not. Oops.
I kind of
You
lost
didn't
you.
even know.
But in,
How do I get this out of here?
I,
Locked in there.
I kind of lost him.
You kind of locked in there.
Interesting. I probably misread it. Oh, how you guys got along or whatever. Yeah. I did apologize. He sent me email back finally, so we worked it out. I probably imagined something was wrong to me. Yeah, because I was keeping an eye out for it, and like not in any part of the interview did he seem like he was annoyed or anything. Like he just seemed like a jolly fella. I just saw a car get wrecked on the television. But no, I get the same thing with people. Like the next day after I have like interactions with people, like all of a sudden I start like thinking about it, and I'm just like, oh, did we have weird static or something? And I'll just freaking that'll just like cycle through my head forever. So I know what you're saying.
You kind of locked in there.
I kind of lost him. But interestingly enough, Gary Downey, who was John's partner, place, right time.
Well, I think you.
I was just the right person in right place, right time.
Oh, yeah, I sent you an email. I don't know if you emailed me back on Twitter about this, but Mark here, he gave a direction to he started to tell a story, but then he stopped because he got something mixed up. He's like, oh, you could just take that out, and then he started over again. And then I started thinking, I'm just like, all right, this guy's a real fancy guy. Like, should I like be taking out like breaths into the mic, stuff like that? And like, because I don't know.
Person in right place, right time.
Or like to supercut the
Well, I think you're
conversation.
one of my.
I was just the right person in right place, right time. Yeah, for me, I was just the right person in right place, right time.
Well, I think you're one of my. You're like one of my favorite. Not you. You're not ex Turlo.
It's edited, but not the point where the people become unreal. Okay, yeah. I don't think so. There's an NPR quality about our show. Yeah. That's what I thought. I'm just like, of course when we show it to him, if he wants it tightened up or something, I could do that later. But I've cleaned up some stuff here and there, but I haven't overdone it. It was mostly just in that it was like a long stretch where he talked a long time, like right here. He like talks for 8 minutes straight, and I cleaned up a couple little things there, but for the most part it's natural.
kind of lucked in there.
I kind of looked him. But interestingly enough, Gary Downey, who was John's partner, John F. Turner's partner, he'd worked as a production manager on Angels and had worked with me and knew that I turned up on time, didn't knock furniture over, and knew my lines. And John was working so fast on Doctor Who. I think having that sort of reference.
Oh, I haven't. I could just look this up myself. But when was he on Doctor Who? Was this the 80s or something? Good plan. Plus, he's a good storyteller. Yeah, because also he's an actor, and some of his pauses might like be very much deliberate. So I don't want to like. I made sure to like. All right, don't be changing up how he's trying to express himself. Yeah, but besides that, that one still that I popped in there.
I
didn't do much more research. I don't know anything about Doctor Who, to be honest.
was excellent. Yeah, for me, I was just right person, right place, right time.
Oh wait, did I listen to this whole thing?
Turner's partner. He'd worked as a production manager on Angels and had worked with me and knew that I turned up my lines. And John was working so fast on Doctor Who. I think having that sort of reference was excellent. Yeah, for me, I was just right person, right place, right time.
Well, I think you're like one of my favorite. Not you. You're not ex Turlo. But things are good.
Wow, 83 and 84. So this is like before I was born. I was born in 85. It's crazy. I kind of want to look up this Angels soap opera, which I assume has never been released on home video or something, because they don't do that with soap operas, really, do they? Because it's on like every fucking day, or they were. You know what my mom has been doing? She has been watching the entire series of Dark Shadows, which is like maybe like a horror, almost horror themed soap opera from the 70s. All that's up on Amazon. And they made that Johnny Depp Tim Burton movie based on it. So I'm like, who the fuck remembers that show? I do remember that they did have Dark Shadows VHSs in the Blockbuster back in the 90s. I never rented any of them, though.
Okay, so you kind of lucked in there.
I kind of looked him. But interestingly enough,
Yeah.
I was just right person, right place, right time.
Well, I think you're like one of my favorite. Not you. You're not ex Turlo. But things are getting very confused. The interview starts going that direction. I was gonna say the character you play is one of my favorite classic companions.
Big Finish continued the series. Same people that make Audio Doctor Who that Strixon did audios with. Oh, wow.
I think he's such a great, unique dynamic in that show, and he's just such a memorable character that even with your return on like Big Finish and stuff, you know, it's just a great character. It's a great setup. You had a great time on the show. One of the things I was reading about you when you're working on the 5 Doctors, so that was one of the big anniversary specials for those who aren't classic Doctor Who fans. And that was they were doing a lot of that, not at the BBC, not a studio, but they were recording a lot of that like out on location. And I think you have a story about that. You know, you went missing during the filming.
Yeah,
and they
no,
had to
what
contact
happened was
you.
we filmed
That, you know, you went missing during the
yeah,
filming.
no,
And they had to
what
contact
happened was
you.
we
Story about that. You know, you went missing during the filming, and they had to contact you.
Yeah.
I think you have a story about that. not at the BBC, not a studio, but they were recording a lot of that like out on location. And I think you have a story about that.
Yeah. No, what happened was we filmed the first scenes in the film are the Doctor landing in the TARDIS on a remote mountain in Wales, and there are some very various scenes up there with us. And so we went to Wales and we filmed those.
Well, thanks for stopping
First,
by, Pete.
and there was a lot of
Should get
other
a
filming to be
big
done in
chunk
the
of this
area, which
done
didn't
tonight.
involve me. And so I went on holiday with my wife at the time, Julie Brennan. And we went on holiday in our old VW Beetle, orange VW Beetle, and stayed at bed and breakfast and things. And it was lovely. It was really nice. And I came back through Stratford on Avon where my
Thanks.
great aunt Violet and my grandmother lived.
It's
and
definitely
I
my
went
vibe.
to their flat, and my great aunt Violet met me at the door. She said, Mark, but the BBC wants you. The BBC wants you. It's been on the local radio. It's been everywhere. They can't contact you. They need you urgently. Right. And so what had happened was we filmed all of our location sequences on film at the time. And film cameras are very simple cameras. Film goes on a clockwork mechanism through an exposure plate, and that's what records the picture. Now that's called the gate of the camera. That gate has to be checked after every take, right? Because it can get dust in it, it can get hairs in it, right? The most common thing is a hair on the gate. And so what had happened was they checked it, but hadn't noticed there had been a hair on the gate. So what it was there was a line across all the shots in one scene. So they needed to record the scene again. So they were trying to get me to bring me back to Wales, but that's how different times were. There were no mobile phones. There was no internet. So they had to wait until I eventually turned up somewhere. And so they'd rung all my family. I rang any of my family. They had to tell the BBC immediately. So I went back to Wales and recorded those scenes again. But it's just a marker of how different life was in those days.
I can't imagine what the public, if they're hearing about actor gone missing on the radio.
But
know
the
what
radio
happened.
didn't work in our car. So
Actor gone missing on the radio. Oh, what
the radio
happened?
didn't work in our car.
Damn it.
Nice. Nice. I can't imagine what the public, if they're hearing about actor gone missing on the radio.
But the radio didn't work in our car. So we didn't know the radio one. In fact, there were holes in the floor. I had to wear walking boots because it was so cold driving that car.
Nice. Nice.
holes in the floor. I had to wear walking boots because it was so cold driving that car.
Nice.
We didn't get paid a lot either. There's another thing. Actors these days get paid more than substantially more than we used to get paid in the old days. It wasn't special being an actor financially, I can tell you.
Yeah, you
Tell you. Special being an actor financially, I can tell you.
Yeah, you were just on the show 2 years. Your time was relatively short. You clocked out just right before the last Fifth Doctor story.
Yeah.
Well, what was your story? Fifth Doctor story.
Yeah.
Well, what was your reasoning at the Doctor story?
Yeah.
Well, what was your reasoning at Fifth Doctor story?
Yeah.
Well, what was your reasoning at the time for like, okay, I've had my time here, I want to do something else, or what was going on?
I get it's part of being.
I want to do something else, or what was going on? Did you ever get a Did you ever get a
You only do. Fifth Doctor story? Yeah.
Well, what was your reasoning at the time for like, okay, I've had my time here, I want to do something else, or what was going on?
I get it's.
What was going on? What's going on? something else, or what was going on?
Again, it's part of being young. I thought, gosh, there's lots of other things to do in life. And I felt that Turlo as a character, he came in very strongly. He actually went out very strongly as well. But it was very difficult to sustain the character.
What the fuck is this?
Strongly as well. But strongly as well. Strongly as well.
It says that there's sound here on this line, but there is no sound there.
I'm here. I want to do something else, or what was going on?
Again, it's part of being young. I thought, gosh, there's lots of other things to do in life. And I felt that Turlo as a character, he came in very strongly. He actually went out very strongly as well. But it was very difficult to sustain the character. When you've got long-running regular characters, it's hard. We were making half-hour episodes, 4 half-hour episodes, and once you've got that, you've got the Doctor, you've got an assistant, or maybe 2 or 3 assistants. You've got the baddie of the week, so to speak, the baddie within the story, and another couple of strong characters there. It's very, very hard for writers to be able to write for everybody within that. Somebody always has to take a step back. Now, Turlo was, he was male, and the Doctor was male at the time, Peter Davison. Right, so he had one lead male in it. He didn't want to really take out the female assistant role. That needed to be quite strong in there, right? But remember, this is family programming, so something for the boys, something for the girls, something for mum, something for dad, right? Turlo is a very, very difficult character. He was so strong and so independent. He was very, very difficult to write for within that half-hour format because he was strong and took control of wherever he was. And that's the Doctor's role. It's not the assistant's role. The assistant's role is partly to ask, Doctor, where are we now? Doctor, what are we going to do? Right? All those sorts of questions to help move the plot on. That's why Doctor Who is easiest to write for when you have either a male or female Doctor and an assistant of the opposite sex. That is how it works best. When I joined Doctor Who, there had been 3 people in the TARDIS, Andric, and Tegan and Nyssa, so 1 guy and 2 girls. None of them were really getting a good part. And so soon after I came into it, Nyssa left, and then it was just me and Janet, and that was all right, because Janet could stay with the Doctor and I could go off and have my own plot lines. But it wasn't going to go on forever, and I felt my plot lines were getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And I sympathized with it because I could see how difficult it was to write for another strong character. So I decided to leave. And I asked Eric, the script editor, to take me out on a bang, a good, nice, good, strong story, and that would be enough for me. That's the badness. You only do that at 23, 24 when you're a young actor, because it was regular money. I bought my first house. I was very stupid things to do. I should have done it for another 10 years. Absolute badness. You only do that at 23. That would be enough for me. Story, and that would be enough for me. Absolute badness. You only do that at 23, 24 when you're a young actor, because it was regular money. I bought my first house. I was very stupid things to do. I should have done it for another 10 years.
Artistically, I think you're right, because I think you did. He has a clean arc.
Yeah.
He has a clean arc.
Yeah.
He has a clean arc.
Yeah.
He and that's kind of he, he has a clean arc.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of the mainstay of why he's still such a good character. Did you ever get a sense, though, what might have happened if you had stayed on? Do you think you would have done well, like when they flipped over to Colin Baker? Would you have stuck around with Perry? What do you think would have happened?
I do.
Over to Colin Baker? Would you have stuck around with Perry? What do you think would have happened?
It'd be nice if he came. Wasn't killed. Wasn't killed.
And if you had stayed on, do you think you would have done well, like when they flipped over to Colin Baker? Would you have stuck around with Perry? What do you think would have happened?
I don't know. I mean, I get on very well with Nicola. Colin's a lovely guy. So, same as when I was on Doctor Who, people say, so how is it working? How are Peter, Janet, and Sarah to work with? The answer is they're all really nice people. And I used to enjoy going into work because it's like going into an office. If you like the people you work with, then it's nice to go in the morning, have a coffee and whatever, right? And if you work with horrible people, it's not. So I think I'd have been as happy as I was when I was with Peter, with Colin and Nicola. But I don't know where. Turlo wasn't going anywhere. Turlo needed to fly off into the sunset. It'd be nice if he sunset. Turlo needed to fly off into the sunset. It'd be nice if he came back. I'm not saying I don't want to come back. I'm glad I wasn't killed.
If somehow Doctor Who manages to survive the current situation with Disney,
Yes.
and they just suck with Disney,
Yes.
and they
So here we go, and let's find out what Donald said. Iran and Israel should make a deal, and will make a deal, just like I got India and Pakistan to make, with the United States to bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into talks with two excellent leaders who
Back. I'm glad I wasn't killed.
if somehow Doctor Who manages to survive the current situation with Disney,
Yes.
and they just call you up, hey, you wanna show up with whoever the 16th Doctor is?
Yeah.
Maybe it's Billy Piper. I don't know. Maybe it's Billy Piper. I don't know. You would take that. You'd be like, yes, I do like money.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
No, they get paid better now.
Do you like money?
Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe it's Billy Piper. I don't know. You would take that. You'd be like, yes, I do like money.
Yeah. They get paid better now, so yeah, I'm sure I would say yes. And I do have a proper job as a TV producer, so I have to work it around that. But yeah.
That's a good jumping off point, because what's interesting about you is you've worn several different hats, and you've had big impact in different parts of your career in different paths. So you did acting for a while, then I think when you were like 30, you decided, okay, I want to study zoology. That's what I'm going to do. Zoology. That's what I'm going to do.
I went
wow.
off and did other things. I went
wow.
off and did other things. Yeah. Yeah. Um, but, yeah. Um,
Different hats, and you've had big impact in different parts of your career in different paths. So so you did acting for a while, then I think when you were like 30, you decided, okay, I want to I want to study zoology. That's what I'm going to do.
no, it wasn't quite like that. It was a decision. I mean, I worked almost until I left the UK. So I explained that I studied zoology in Australia. Why did I go to Australia? Well, why did I study zoology? I had I've become more and more worried about the state of the planet. I was, in a sense, before my time. But I was very, very worried about the environment and what we were doing as humans to it. And I was very worried about what was happening to the natural world. So I thought, right, I'm in television. I'd quite like to make natural history films, natural history documentaries. But I don't know enough about the subject to start doing that just from nowhere. And who would employ me? And I did have a little bit of money in the bank, and so my wife and I both decided to go to Australia. Well, we both went to university at the age of 30 odd. And why did we go to Australia? Well, we'd had 3 appalling summers in the UK. We'd had the war against Argentina and the Margaret Thatcher years, which I wasn't very happy with the politics in the UK. So we decided we'd go somewhere where we knew the sun shone, and that was Australia. We'd never been there, but when we flew in on the plane to Sydney, the sky was blue, the sea was sparkling blue beneath us. It was just like it was in the brochure, so to speak, and it was right. And Australia does have a most wonderful climate. So yeah, we both studied zoology. I should explain that my first wife was an actress as well. She was a regular on a soap opera called Emmerdale Farm in the UK. And she does appear in Doctor Who in a 4-parter called Paradise Towers with Sylvester McCoy. But we both decided we'd do zoology, which we did for the next 4 years. She is still 40 years later at the same university, has got her doctorate and teaches there. I went
wow.
off and did other things. But yeah.
You became a documentarian. You
I
actually did get to make
I did.
natural history stuff.
And that was quite.
You became a documentarian.
But it's okay. He's definitely got. It's okay. He's definitely got some. Biggest star.
That's funny. No one can understand those Australians. No one can understand those Australians. It's impossible.
quite a few
It
films.
wasn't that long that that's funny.
I have. And I made quite a few
It
films.
wasn't that long that Steve Irwin he became a household name.
I
Oh,
went off
wow.
and did other things. But yeah.
You you became a documentarian.
I did. Yeah, I did. And that was quite interesting. Actually, my first marriage broke up, but I realized when I finished my degree that the center. Well, I didn't realize it. I knew it. The center of the world for making natural history documentaries was Bristol, and is in a sense Bristol is. where the BBC Natural History Unit is. David Attenborough and all that, right? And if you do want to make natural history programs, it's a good place to start. So I moved back to the UK after 4.5 years in Australia and went to live in Bristol. And I sat and wrote some films. And I sent them off to producers and development producers in companies in Bristol. There were quite a lot of companies making natural history films there. It was a boom time. Discovery was just starting. National Geographic Channel was just starting. So suddenly the face of television was changing. And I sent them off to one of the companies was a company called Partridge Films, and a chap called Andrew Buchanan was head of development there. And I had a phone call from Andrew, and Andrew said, I know this is going to sound like a silly question, but you're not the Mark Strickson of Doctor Who, are you? And I said, yes, I am, Andrew. And he said, well, you probably don't remember, but I'm Andrew Buchanan, and I was a production manager on one of your last episodes. And he said, and since then, I've changed my career, and I'm now development producer at a natural history company. And so, by a very, very weird thing, I got invited into Partridge Films and met Andrew and the executive producer, Mike Rosenberg, who ran the company, and they liked 2 of my films. And again, right place, right time. It was a boom time in natural history program making, and nobody in the UK had really made any films about Australia. It was just too far away. It's the other side of the world. There was nobody there who knew about the nature of Australia. This point, I'd worked as a ranger for the Australian National Park Service. I knew my stuff, and I had loads of contacts in the science world, in zoology, in Australia. So who better? And in development, they had a film about poisonous snakes, and I knew that the 10 deadliest snakes in the world were in Australia. So this became a film called The 10 Deadliest Snakes in the World. And it is an historic film. Across the world, it changed the face of documentary making and natural history documentary making in particular. Again, right place, right time. It was all about deadly snakes. Now, if you get a camera out in front of a snake and it's not enclosed in a set, it just goes away from you. Snakes don't want anything to do with humans. They just go away from you. In order to make a film about snakes, you do need to handle them, and you need a good snake handler. And we're talking the 10 most venomous snakes in the world. I need a good snake handler. So I write to Australian zoos and reptile parks and whatever. And this little place called Beerwah, north of Brisbane, has got this tiny little rat. Across the world, it changed the face of right place, right time. It was all about deadly snakes. Now, if you get a camera out,
need a good handler.
in front of a snake and it's not enclosed in a set, it just goes away from you. Snakes don't want anything to do with humans. They just go away from you. In order to make a film about snakes, you do need to handle them, and you need a good snake handler. And we're talking the 10 most venomous snakes in the world. I need a good snake handler. So I write to Australian zoos and reptile parks and whatever. And this little place called Beerwah, north of Brisbane, has got this tiny little reptile park, right? And a lady called Terry Irwin sends me a video of her husband, Steve Irwin. And it's okay. He shouts a lot in it, but it's okay. He's definitely got something. And we're sitting in Bristol watching this. And basically we decided that Steve Irwin was going to either be a major star or a disaster for us. There was nothing in between, right? So we hired Steve Irwin, and I went out and directed decided that Steve Irwin was going to either be a major star or a disaster for us. There was nothing in between, right? So we hired Steve Irwin, and I went out and directed the film, and The 10 Deadliest Snakes in the World was made. It was a huge issue persuading Discovery Channel not to subtitle it because they didn't think anybody would understand Steve. And he went on to their biggest star.
That's funny.
I had a huge battle to stop that because I realized that it's
No one can understand those Australians. It's impossible.
It's impossible. But well, yeah, you can't understand New Zealand. So I now live in New Zealand. I do have difficulty here sometimes. But Australia, and Steve was wonderful. And it was massively popular. It was a huge hit. But there were two other very interesting things about that film. Previous to that, most documentaries were shot on film. It was one of the first times you'd ever use a video camera, a digibeta video camera, digital beta camera, right? This was an extremely expensive camera at the time, right? And there weren't many of them. And it meant you could follow the person.
Several documentary series and specials focus on the world's deadliest snake. The Crocodile Hunter's 10 Deadliest Snakes, also known as Steve Irwin, the world's top 10 deadliest snakes. Features Steve Irwin tracking down and showcasing dangerous snakes in Australia. Was this in the fucking 80s? Early 90s? It says this was 2001. Oh, it's on Daily Motion. It's probably potato quality then. – 2001.
You could film half an hour, but not use half an hour. You could have it on start, right? And it would automatically film the previous 12 seconds, and then you press start. But it would have a memory. It had a memory that recorded 12 seconds where you hadn't pressed the start button, right? Okay, so it was always recording 12 seconds previous. Now, imagine when you're filming things like eggs hatching, snakes attacking things, right? Anything like that. This is absolutely wonderful, right? Because it happens very fast. So we made this film absolutely. We did a 4-month natural history, pure natural history shoot, and I still see some of the snake footage we filmed in documentaries now. So we did a marvelous natural history shoot. Steve was very good as a presenter. It rated its socks off. I mean, people loved it across the world, right? But the other thing we did was, when I got back to the UK, my executive producer said, "This is incompetent. We're up for a reshoot. Have you never heard of a tripod, Mark?" What we'd done is we'd ran with the camera. We'd chased Steve, right? We'd taken the camera off the tripod. Now, believe it or not, this had hardly been done before in documentary television. It's always on a tripod. So it gave it a sense of immediacy that people had never, ever seen before.
It's so fucking hot. I have the AC going, but it's like...
And that was the cameraman's decision, which I had to agree with as the director. But I didn't realise it was so revolutionary. But as I say, I went back to the UK and I was pretty much given the sack. Because I had been incompetent and not kept the camera on a tripod. It was shaky. But of course it was. We were running through the Australian bush following snakes. And then, as well, by taking it off the tripod, there's a golden rule when you film animals. If anybody wants to film animals, here's your golden rule. You must be at the eye level of the animal. That's when it works, right? Now, snakes are on the ground. If you want to be on the ground, your camera's got to be on the... If you want to film snakes, your camera has to be on the ground. So you need a brave cameraman, because snakes like to, when they're feeling a bit threatened, go for a hide in a dark hole. Or to them, the camera lens looks like a dark hole. It's the first thing they make straight for. So the snakes would go towards it and they'd climb over the camera and escape. So if you're talking the 10 most venomous snakes in the world, we're working with. This is hard shit. But it was a fabulous film. When I became a name director overnight once it was aired. So yeah. And I made quite a few
It
films.
wasn't that long that Steve Irwin, he became a household name.
It became a household name, yeah. He was Animal Planet.
What the fuck? What the fuck? No, 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 no.
But it was a fabulous film. When I became a name director overnight once it was aired. So yeah. And I made quite a few films.
It wasn't that long that Steve Irwin, he became a household name.
It became a household name, yeah. He was Animal Planet when Animal Planet started. Yeah, absolutely. So talk about right place, right time, right technology. It all just came together on that one film. And when it aired in the UK, Channel 4... It aired, there are only 4 channels. Channel 5 was in existence. Oh no, Channel 5 just was in existence. And Channel 5 was known as a man's channel, right? And so they were showing England. They'd somehow got the rights to show England in a soccer game, right? So every man in the country was watching that.
I'm gonna watch that Steve Irwin documentary when I'm done here. And my fucking back is spasming the fuck out. Let's try to get to at least an hour mark though, because I might not be able to work on Thursday.
And everybody else watched ITV,
I'm going to medieval times for my 40th birthday.
which is our Channel 3, an independent station, right? Which had the Steve Irwin film on. And the headline in the papers the next day was Black Wednesday.
Did he say hapers?
And the headline in the papers the next...
Is this some British slang that I'm just unaware of? Like they call ZZ? Oh. AI says no.
Next day was Black Wednesday for the BBC. It was the day on which the BBC had its lowest ratings since it had ever been in existence. So there you go. That's how important 10 Deadliest Snakes in the World was, which had the Steve Irwin film on. And the headline in the papers the next day was Black Wednesday for the BBC. It was the day on which the BBC had its lowest ratings since it had ever been in existence. So there you go. That's how important 10 Deadliest Snakes in the World was with Steve Irwin. It was a groundbreaking film.
I definitely. This is on YouTube. I should. Steve Irwin, 10 Deadliest Snakes. Excuse me.
I'm Steve Irwin, and I know a thing or two about snakes.
480p. And this is fucking uploaded 3 years ago, and they uploaded it in 480p.
I'm Steve Irwin, and I know a thing or two about snakes.
Nice.
I was raised with them. My father founded the Queensland...
With Steve Irwin. It was a groundbreaking film.
I feel, of course, Steve Irwin, I'm thinking that your thing comes out in 98. Irwin dies in 2006.
Son
That's
of
a
a
state.
whore, what have I done?
Wasn't that long that Steve Irwin, he became a household name.
It became a household name, yeah.
How did I fuck this up?
I don't want to make things too morbid, but do you...
How did I do this?
I feel, of course, Steve Irwin, I'm thinking that your thing comes out in 98. Irwin dies in...
The world was with Steve Irwin. It was a groundbreaking film.
I feel, of course, Steve Irwin. I'm thinking that your thing comes out in '98. Irwin dies in 2006.
Yeah.
That's just 8 years.
Yeah, he's on the same age.
Irwin dies in 2006.
Yeah.
That's just 8 years.
Yeah, he's on the same age as me.
That's just 8 years.
Yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
That's just 8 years.
Yeah, he's on the same age as me.
Irwin dies in 2006.
Yeah.
That's just 8 years.
Yeah, he's on the same age as me.
I guess I never made that connection. Is in 2006.
Yeah.
That's just 8 years.
Yeah, he's on the same age as me.
Six.
Yeah.
That's just 8 years.
Yeah, he's on the same age as me.
I guess I never made that connection. His time. I mean, he was a huge star.
Absolutely.
If you
Yeah. Yeah.
Star.
Absolutely.
If you
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
are.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was a huge star.
Absolutely.
I don't want to make things too morbid, but do you remember your feelings or what was going on when you heard about his
exactly what I was
passing?
doing. I was sitting in an edit room in
Do you remember your feelings or what was going on when you heard about his
exactly what I was
passing?
doing. I was
I don't want to make things too morbid, but do you remember your feelings or what was going on when you heard about his passing?
No, exactly what I was doing. I was sitting in an edit room in New Zealand, right, when he died, and I was run by Reuters, the news company, and they said, do you know Steve Irwin's died? And I said, if I could have $100 every time somebody's told me that, I'd be a rich man. You'll have to prove it to me. So I said, so they said, go on the Reuters news site, and it obviously was a Reuters thing. And I was due to leave for a shoot in Indonesia that day, that afternoon. fly out of the town, the city I live in. And so they said, "Can we have an interview with you, Mark?" And I said, "Yeah, but I'm warning you, I'm leaving for the airport at 3 o'clock." And this was sort of like 10:30 in the morning when they rang. And they said, we'll get a crew to you. And they did. They got a Reuters crew to me by about 1 o'clock, and I did an interview. And I got to the airport, and the guy at the airport says, "Excuse me," he says, "You aren't the guy who was on the television at lunchtime talking about Steve Irwin?" I said, yeah, I was, yeah. But I was, obviously extremely upset by his death. As I say, that whole thing about being exactly the same age, that made it even harder. And I have almost died since then. Being close to death does take your, yeah. I'll tell you how I almost died if you want to, but because
was it?
I mean, I've almost been killed by crocodiles twice, but that's another story. But how I almost died, I'll tell you about that. But how I
Eight years.
Yeah, he's on the same age as me.
I guess I had never made that connection. His time. I mean, he was a huge star.
Absolutely.
I don't want to make things too morbid, but do you remember your feelings or what was going on when you heard about his passing?
No, exactly what I was doing. I was sitting in an edit room in New Zealand, right, when he died, and I was run by Reuters, the news company, and they said, do you know Steve Irwin's died? And I said, if I could have $100 every time somebody's told me that, I'd be a rich man. You'd have to prove it to me. So I said, so they said, go on the Reuters news site, and it obviously was a Reuters thing. And I was due to leave for a shoot in Indonesia that day, that afternoon, fly out of the town, the city I live in. And so they said, can we have an interview with you, Mark? And I said, yeah, but I'm warning you, I'm leaving for the airport at 3 o'clock. And this was sort of like 10:30 in the morning when they rang. And they said, we'll get a crew to you. And they did. They got a Reuters crew to me by about 1 o'clock, and I did an interview. And I got to the airport, and the guy at the airport says, excuse me, he says, you aren't the guy who was on the television at lunchtime talking about Steve Irwin? I said, yeah, I was, yeah. But I was, obviously extremely upset by his death. As I say, that whole thing about being exactly the same age, that made it even harder. And I have almost died since then. Being close to death does take your, yeah. I'll tell you how I almost died if you want to, but because I promise, I mean, I've almost been killed by crocodiles twice, but that's another story. But how I almost died, I'll tell you about that as well. But how I almost died was I got off a plane. I'd been traveling insanely, traveling to the UK, over to America. I traveled far too fast, far too quickly, not looking after myself. And I got a blood clot in my leg. And my son was about 3 at the time. And died. I'll tell you about that as well. But how I almost died was I got off a plane. I'd been traveling insanely, traveling to the UK, over to America. I traveled far too fast, far too quickly, not looking after myself. And I got a blood clot in my leg. And my son was about 3 at the time. And we went away for the Christmas break, and I was halfway up a hill. I was carrying him on my back up to a astronomy point where there was a big telescope, and I thought I had a heart attack. I felt like I had a heart attack, and I fell to the ground. And I got back to the car, and I said to my wife, "Can you drive me very slowly to your parents?" which was a couple of hours away. And I didn't panic. I breathed very slowly. I thought I'd had a heart attack. But the nearest hospital was another 2 hours off, right? And I could have organised for a helicopter. But I took some aspirin. I knew that was a good thing to do if you had heart problems, thins your blood. And we drove very slowly back to Dunedin, which is the city I live in. And I got to the hospital, by which time I was doubled over with pain. And they tested me immediately. I mean, I was taken straight in on a stretcher. And they tested me immediately for a heart attack. I hadn't had a heart attack. And the next thing the doctor said to me was, "Have you been on a long flight recently?" And I said, "Yes." "Oh, actually, I know exactly what you've got." I had a pulmonary embolism. I had a blood clot in my lungs. Apparently, I was 4 hours away from death when I got to the hospital. If I hadn't got to a hospital, and this is a thing that also is very close to my experience in life. I had a friend who died from apparently a heart attack in the Brazil jungle. I don't think it was a heart attack. He was an incredibly fit man. I think he probably had a pulmonary embolism like me after the long flight there. Mine was about 5 or 6 days later. He'd gone off into the jungle. There's no hospitals in the jungle. If I'd been in the jungle, it would have been reported that I'd had a heart attack. So you have to be very, very careful. A lot of people who do natural history films and go to remote locations have their appendix removed because they can't take the risk of having appendicitis. And you don't need your appendix, so they have it removed to avoid the risk of that.
Huh. Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Have it removed to avoid the risk of that.
Huh. Yeah. That was interesting. Blood clots are scary. Embolisms, aneurysms. Ugh. Mm-hmm.
It's quite sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite. And she helps. The nest is a huge mound of earth, and she digs them out and helps them to the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite sweet, really. And
Mm-hmm.
it's quite sweet, really. And
But do you remember your feelings or what was going on when you heard about his?
to avoid the risk of that.
Huh. Yeah. That was interesting. Blood clots are scary. Embolisms, aneurysms. Ugh.
Yeah, absolutely horrible. So, how was I killed by crocodiles almost twice? Right. This was with Steve Irwin. Another Steve Irwin for you story for you. Another Steve Irwin story for you. Killed by crocodiles. Yes. Well, Steve taught me a lot about working with animals and working very closely to animals. And we made a film called Crocs Down Under. Crocs in Australia. And we were trying to get a female crocodile. It was on purely a natural history shoot. Steve wasn't there. And we were trying to get shots of a crocodile coming back to its nest. When the eggs hatch for a crocodile, the little ones make a noise. And the female crocodile, that noise brings her back to the nest. And she helps. The nest is a huge mound of earth. And she digs them out and helps them to the water. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite sweet, really. We, for some reason, this female crocodile that we knew her eggs were about to hatch would not go back to the nest, and she was steering clear of the nest. We were sure it was to do something to do with the fact that she could maybe smell us. We had mosquito repellent on. I mean, you're going to get malaria or dengue fever if you don't have mosquito repellent on in the swamp at the top of. We're right at the top of north of Australia, in a very, very remote place. And so we decided, right, we'd pitch a tent and not wear repellent. But we'd have to be in the tent, right? Leave the camera out where we could film from it and only go out when she come back to the nest and was doing the thing of digging her young out. Anyway, this didn't work. But what did happen one night was that another crocodile didn't see us and crawled on top of the tent. So there were two of us in a tent with a crocodile on top. Unfortunately, they're very large, these crocodiles. They're doing 20-foot. Tent. So there were two of us in a tent with a crocodile on top. Unfortunately, they're very. Tent. So there were two of us in a tent with a crocodile on top. Unfortunately, they're very large, these crocodiles. They're only 20-foot long, right? So fortunately, the crocodile went away from us, right? But then, I mean, obviously, we were absolutely panic-stricken, right? And we cut our way out of the tent, right? Grabbed the camera and walked through the marsh in the dark, right? About 40 meters back to where our vehicle was. Now, this was a crocodile-infested swamp, right? And then after that, we went back to the floor of the house we were staying in. It was a completely open shed, right? It was in an Aboriginal settlement in the north, and we just slept on the floor of it. And we went back there and we drank beer for 3 days and pretty well waited until we'd stopped shaking. So that was the first time I was almost killed by a crocodile. Second time was much more serious. I'd left my crew at the end of a billabong, a small lake, in a very remote part of Australia again. And what happened was a whole lot of birds came and I saw them fly around the corner to the other end of the billabong. And I thought, oh, man, there must be lots of lovely birds around there. That would make a lovely shot. Right? So I said to the guys, I'll go and check it out. Now, you do not do this, right? It was stupidity, right? You do not walk in the middle of nowhere in Australia on your own next to water where there are lots of crocodiles. Just don't do it. And so on the way to the end of the billabong, there was a lizard's nest that had been dug out in the bank of the billabong in the sand. So I went to have a look at it, and there were some broken eggs in it and things. And at that point, a crocodile launched itself out of the water straight at me. A massive female crocodile. And what I had learned from Steve, who knew a lot about working with crocodiles, was that if you are in crocodile country, you don't walk anywhere unless you've got a big hollow bamboo stick with you. Sure, a 6-foot long bamboo stick, hollow. And why would you want that? Well, when crocodiles fight, they bang their heads against each other. So if a big crocodile, its head hits a smaller crocodile, the reverberation from the head, because a lot of the head's hollow, it makes a bigger noise. Like the bigger the drum, the bigger the noise. So the little crocodile knows, this is a big crocodile. I'll shove off. I'm getting out of here because I'm going to lose this fight. It's just a very, very basic instinct in them. It's how they know how strong the crocodile they're facing up against is, right? So the theory is, if you hit the crocodile on the head with something that makes a very big, loud, hollow noise, like a hollow bamboo pole, the crocodile will back off because it thinks you're a big crocodile. And you can just walk slowly away from you. Stay away from the crocodile, holding onto your bamboo stick, right? So I did this. I hit the crocodile. The crocodile was there in front of me, coming at me, attacking me. Right? I hit it with the bamboo stick, and thank you, Mr. Owen, you saved my life. It worked. The crocodile stopped dead in its tracks, and I walked backwards as Steve had instructed me to. And I walked backwards, and the crocodile didn't move. And eventually, I turned around and went back to the jeep again. I spent another 3 days on the floor drinking beer and shaking my went back to the jeep again. I spent another 3 days on the floor drinking beer and shaking my
Oh my goodness, it's very good. That crocodile believed in the stick thing. It's not that reminds me of the Boy Scouts where they have some kind of myth about like if you encounter bears, have bells with you. It's like I'm not sure this is gonna work, guys.
If you
So
ever moved out to the north of Australia and you want if you
So
ever
it's- I'm-
moved out so there you
Fascinating.
Israel says it has killed 9 Iranian scientists and has targeted oil, gas, and nuclear facilities in a bid to cripple the country's nuclear capacity.
backwards, and the crocodile didn't move. And eventually, I turned around and went back to the jeep again. I spent another 3 days on the floor drinking beer and shaking my
Have bells with you. It's like I'm not sure this is gonna work, guys.
If you ever moved out to the north of Australia and you want to save your life, you want people to help you, take lots of beer with you. Whenever we flew in, the plane was mostly full of beer because, of course, they can't get it up there, right? So it's worth more than gold, really. I mean, beer is liquid gold if you're in North Australia, or was at the time, right? Because I got back after that shoot to the UK. I was still working for this UK company, and the production manager had a fit. She said, "Look at this beer bill. You've spent thousands. You spent over $10,000 on beer, Mark." I said, "If I hadn't spent over $10,000 on beer, Sue, you'd have a bill for $40,000 there, not $12,000. Beer is the currency in the north of Australia. That's why I spent all that money on beer." So there you go.
That is a really interesting.
Beer is the currency in the north of Australia. That's why I spent all that money on beer.
Fascinating. That is a really interesting. You could have a documentary about animal documentary making. That is a fascinating field. Fascinating. That is a really interesting. You could have a documentary about.
On beer, Sue, you'd have a bill for $40,000 there, not $12,000. Beer is the currency in the north of Australia. That's why I spent all that money on beer.
That is a really interesting. You could have a documentary about animal documentary making. That is a fascinating field.
So this brings me sort of back to why I left Doctor Who. Right? I have had a very exciting life, interesting life. Some of it's been exciting, some of it's been dead boring. But I've had a very interesting life, and I travelled all over the world, and I've been to incredibly remote places. I spent 6 months living on an island and filming flying crocodiles in the most remote place in the world, probably. the Western Islands off Irian Jaya in Indonesia. I've spent time filming Komodo dragons on my own on an island with a camera, you know? So I had an extraordinary life in those, and the things I've seen have been amazing. And I did sort of realize that the BBC rehearsal rooms was on a traffic island in West London. It wasn't a wonderfully great place to go to work, and that's where you go to work if you're working for the BBC. You know, for 8-9 months a year, I was on a traffic island in West London. Well, I did come to a point where I realized that I wanted to live life, not pretend to live life. And for some people, acting is an adventure, and they find it an adventure. I didn't. I did find it boring. I loved the process of acting, but I found the life of being an actor quite boring. And that is a major reason why at 29, 30, I left the UK. I set off to have an adventure. I didn't know what adventure that would be, but I had an adventure. Still going on.
You sure did. That was quite a profound observation to make, especially for someone in their.
Still going on.
You sure did.
I didn't know what adventure that would be, but I had an adventure. Still going on.
You sure did.
Still going on.
You sure did. You sure did.
I had an adventure. Still going on, babe.
You sure did. That was quite a profound observation to make, especially for someone in their 20s.
Yeah.
And what you're doing right now, you're a TV producer, but not TV as in. A profound observation to make, especially for someone in their 20s.
Yeah.
And you're a TV producer, but not TV as.
Yeah.
Especially for someone in their 20s.
Yeah.
And what you're doing right now, you're a TV producer, but not TV as in animal documentaries. So much.
No, I'd have
But-
probably had to. somebody's got a
True.
budget of 4,000. I had an adventure. Still going on with.
You sure did. That was quite a profound observation to make, especially for someone in their 20s.
Yeah.
And what you're doing right now, you're a TV producer, but not TV as in animal documentaries.
Well, no. I'd have probably had to have stayed in Bristol if I wanted to do that. And my life took me to Australia, and eventually I actually got sent out to New Zealand to work on a thing for Animal Planet, and I met my current wife in New Zealand. This is why you find me in New Zealand, and I have a 16-year-old boy. So he's been at school, so I've earned a living out in New Zealand. And I have done some natural history. For example, I did a series called Modern Dinosaurs, which was about animals that live in New Zealand that are directly related to dinosaurs. Oh, that was really interesting. So I do some natural history. I did a show on volcanoes for the Smithsonian Channel. That was it. That was really interesting. But the same company that I made the volcano program for, we're doing a program called Rich House, Poor House, which is a rich family swaps with a poor family. It's actually a very, very clever concept. Right? It has a serious side to it. If you went into a commissioning editor's office and you said, I want to make a program about people who are poor, you wouldn't be seeing the light of day. People don't want to watch people struggling and they're suffering. We have enough of that on the news. It certainly doesn't it's not what people want to watch at 8:30 at night. Having seen the news and everything, you don't need to be reminded how difficult life is. But what Rich House Poor House is they change lives for a week and they change spending budgets, right? And why it's such a good program, and it's been going for 5 or 6 years now, is because most people don't realize how poor people are. Until somebody's got a budget of $4,000 spending money for a week, swaps places with somebody who's got $140 spending money for the week and 2 kids, they don't realize what that's like. And they truly have to live it in this program. There is no way out. The rich people have to live on that money. And it's a real eye-opener into how difficult people's lives are. Meantime, it's lightened by the fact that the poor family's got loads of money, and they do loads of treats, and they do things that and that lightens the program up. The other thing that makes it interesting is you go to 2 people's houses, and you nose about in their lives. Audiences love that. They love going in and nosing around people's lives. It's got that entertainment bit, but it has got this extremely serious side to it, which doesn't come across as serious, and you only sort of realize it's been there at the end of the program. And at the end of the program, if I don't make the audience cry, I have not done my job. You should have a tear in your eye at the end of the program. Because, of course, people have to go back to their lives.
104.45.
And that's very difficult sometimes. But we do also make a program called Rich House, Poor House, Change My Life, because it's also about the rich people helping the poor people. We try and match people. So maybe the rich people own a chain of hotels, the poor people, the guy's a chef or something like that, but he trained as a chef and now he's a bus driver or something, But we try and make them come up with a business idea that could work for the poor people. And sometimes it has spectacularly worked. And those poor people 2 years later have been very wealthy, running a very profitable business. So we do also do that one, Rich House, Poor House, Changed My Life. We also make a rather fun program called Rich Holiday, Poor Holiday, which is rich people having the holiday, poor people having the holiday, rich people having, which is just very funny sometimes.
I'd volunteer for that one. Oh, you want to take me? You will put me on the what holiday? Yes, please.
So that's what I do.
Nice.
right for a chess player.
I'd volunteer for that one. Oh, you want to take me? You will put me on the what all day? Yes, yes, please.
So that's what I do now. And it's shot. The company's currently making it for Netflix.
I'd volunteer for that one. Oh, you want to take me? You will put me on the what all day? Yes, yes, please.
So that's what I do now. And it's shot. The company's currently making it for Netflix in America, and I'm one of the people who makes the version for Channel 5 in the UK, all shot in the UK with UK crews. All the footage is sent to me in New Zealand, and pretty much I put a story together because you're using hundreds of hours of material, you know, many tens of hours, 90 to 100 hours of material, and so
shit.
you create a story with it, and I write the script and all that sort of thing, and it gets sent back to the UK, what's called picture locked, so it's absolutely locked with a script, and then it just gets the final post done in the UK, which is colouring of the images, sound, making sure the sound's perfect throughout it, and all those sorts of things. And another actor narrates it. My voice is not right for a chess player.
Is working on this kind of space, especially since Rich House Poor House is almost filmed kind of similarly to Big Brother in a lot of ways, because you have like.
All right, so I have 30 more minutes to cut, but my back is fucking spasming, so I have to get off stream for a minute, at least. Thanks to everybody who popped in, said hi. I might be back on later tonight to do something, but no promises. So, yeah, until next time. Goodbye.
Death is great. He'll see.